What's up? I am Blake Jamieson. I am here with Karla and Ashley, and we're going to chit-chat about a little bit of art, a little bit of sculpture, a little bit of inventions.
Yeah,
right? I hear you have a little art invention.
I do, maybe. We can get into it.
Awesome. And Karla, preparing for your NFT drop.
I know. It's exciting.
Yeah. Like, where do you guys want to start stylistically?
Let's start with Karla. She just had her launch today, so tell us about that.
Awesome. Well, I do have to give you a little credit, Blake.
Thank you.
Where it's deserved. And, like, Ashley and everybody that I've met so far through Wursta and WRST Collabs, like, I knew nothing about NFTs. I came into this space when I went to Miami with you guys, and I met you, Blake, and I had all these, like, really cool conversations and interactions and meetings and things that I was, like, in just to learn from, and it really inspired me to, like, do something, right?
So, like, before Art Basel 2021, right? Yeah. Art Basel 2021. Before that, coming in to that space, had you been to Art Basel before?
No. So it was like the most phenomenal 3 days of my life.
Amazing.
Oh, for sure.
It was awesome.
And what context were you there on? Like, were you there to, like, just scope out cool art? Were you there to, like, do networking, like, professionally? Like, what was, I guess, like, the coming into it? What were you thinking?
I just really went to learn and, like, look at everything I possibly could to see what this space was about. Not only seeing really cool art at the event itself, but then going to these different NFT forums and, you know, meeting you and talking to different people that are doing different projects. I found just a lot of inspiration from it and how collaborative it is. Coming from a photography background, I don't know if you know this, but photographers are so hush-hush. Like, we don't share things. We don't share locations. We don't share cool things. Like, back when I first started doing photography, you had to, like, figure things out. And then I come into this, like, NFT space and I meet you guys, and everybody is so collaborative and wants to share all the information and, like, just talk about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And there's no secrets. Like, everybody wants to encourage each other in the space, which I found was, like, amazing.
Yeah. So you came to Art Basel with the thought or intention or idea of, like, learning more about the Web3.
Yeah. I had nothing. I had no context. I just knew people were selling art and digital files for money. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what is this context? I was like, I need to know more. Right. So that's why I went.
That's awesome. And then what was that process like, coming back December of last year, landing back at home, absorbing kind of what you had learned and seeing at Art Basel, and, like, how did that, like, manifest or evolve into what you're working on now?
I came back and honestly slept for a day because I don't think I slept the whole time in Miami.
I got COVID. Yeah, I slept for like a week after that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I came back and just, like, there was so much information, and I honestly was overwhelmed because I was like, where do I even start? Like, what do I do? What do I put together? I have this huge amount of art that's just on hard drives that I've done for the past 10, 15 years that I don't do anything with. So, like, all right, let's start going through those hard drives. I started pulling stuff out, pulling files out, pictures that I loved, art that I've done, and then started compiling these, like, ideas of, okay, can I mix things together? Do I just use my regular photography just on its own by itself? Mm-hmm. And I just really started making stuff, like, thinking about ways to use it in an interesting and new way. And, like, it lit a fire under my butt. I don't think I put my iPad down for, like, 2 months. I was just, like, on it, drawing, doing things.
From a photography standpoint, are you focused on a particular, like, do you do portraits? Are you doing street art photography? Is it a mix of wherever you are with your camera? Like, what would you say your focus or niche is, if there is one, I guess, relative to that?
I think I do a little bit of everything, but if I bring it back to, like, why I fell in love with photography in the first place, it was really the human form. Like, when I was in a dark room, sorry. It's like the dark room with the black walls. In the dark room back in the day, I processed film. I developed my own photographs, and I did a lot of, like, figures and like fine art nudes and things like that. And so when I started looking at some of the ways that I can incorporate my nature photography, because I love doing pictures when I travel. My husband and I go to Japan often, so I have a lot of like really cool images from Japan. I started thinking of ways that I can incorporate why I fell in love with photography in the first place and what I like to do now.
That's awesome. Fun fact, in high school, I turned 16, and I grew up in like a, I don't know, upper middle class family that did fine, but like a lot of my friends, I grew up in Marin County, which is like a well-off area. I would say comparable to Marin County. I was on like the lower end of that. And so like all my friends were turning 16 at the same time. They were all getting cars, you know, and my parents are like, hey, your 16th birthday's coming up. Like, what are you thinking? I don't know if a car is in the cards, but like my parents each had a car. They're like, maybe we can give you one of our cars. I'm like, I don't want a car. They're like, what do you want? I was like, I want an enlarger, I want a Bessler CB7, and I want to build a darkroom out in the barn.
That's amazing.
And they're like, are you serious? They're like, what does that cost? I'm like, the enlarger's about $600 used. They're like, they were like so stoked.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, amazing. Like, we don't have to get him a car. So like I got a darkroom basically for my 16th birthday, and like am still like very passionate about photography. It's not the medium that people know me for, but I like enjoy it, love film photography, developing my own stuff.
I love that.
So anyways,
yeah,
I love black rooms too.
I was like, the dark room, the black room.
Yeah.
No, fun fact, my dad was a photographer when we lived in New York when I was little, and he had a dark room in one of the bathrooms. And so when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I was in there helping him develop his film. And like, you know, flash forward 15 years, then I was doing it after he was doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's cool. I didn't know that about you. I like that.
Same. My dad was a photographer in high school and in college, and he photographed he ended up in he has some crazy stories. The James Brown portrait that I have upstairs is based on a photograph that he took in 1969 of James Brown. Gosh. But yeah, like even like in high school when I was in photography class, I was using his camera.
Nice.
So
yeah, same here. Same here. Yeah,
vibes.
I still have that camera. It's sitting in my on display in my living room. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's rad. Ashley, I don't know where to start. I think that I'm most fascinated in this building is the controller chandelier. And you know, just from speaking with you a little bit about it last night, of knowing like a little bit of the origin story of you kind of talking to the other, you know, employees and coworkers and colleagues and stuff, and them kind of like being like, I don't know, like what are you doing, right? Like, talk us through like that. That's a really cool piece.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. So I came up with this idea to do like an old remote controller installation, chandelier type thing, and kind of when I told some of the employees about it, they were like, why? Like, what's the point? Like, is it going to be cool? Kind of doubting it. And I was like, I just think it'll add something to the space. And it actually worked out really cool to where all the people that have been visiting this week that's been like their piece. Like, I've seen people walk by taking pictures of it, like pointing at it and saying like, oh, that's so cool. And it relates to a conversation that me and Mike O'Day were having last night about how oftentimes, like, when you're an artist, like the pieces that you're most anxious about, or the pieces that you think nobody will like, or that people, like, when you give them the idea, they just like instantly don't like it, those ones often end up being the best.
Yeah, like the polarizing stuff a little bit.
Versus like I've had some paintings that I've absolutely loved, and I've put them on social media and stuff, and they've like gotten a very low response. Versus I did one painting, it was like one of the first reels I did. It was a painting I absolutely hated. Like, I cannot stand to look at it, and I was like, whatever, I'm gonna make a reel about it. And I got the most views on a reel I've ever had, and like more likes than I even get on my personal Instagram page. And I was like, this is so strange. It's interesting how that happens for artists. It's that perspective is just so different for everyone, and it's just cool to see that something that people didn't have as much faith in actually ended up being the thing that got the most attention at our event. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think as an artist, like, if I'm showing somebody my work, pretty much the worst thing that can possibly happen is them be like, oh, that's cool, and then just kind of like on the next thing. Like being right in the middle, like, oh, that's nice. Like, yeah, that's cool. It's like I want people to either be like, yo, I love this piece, right? Or I don't, and people aren't going to be like, yo, I hate that, right? They're going to be like more like, I don't get it, or like, or whatever, which is fine. Like still internally, I think it's like they don't like the piece, and I'm like, that's cool. It's not for you, right? It's for the people on the other end of that spectrum that are like, this is fucking awesome, and that's a really dope piece.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like that's why the space is so like difficult sometimes for artists, because it's like every single audience that you're around, every single person that you meet, they might like something totally different than what you make. And what you make could be absolutely amazing, but like for that particular person / audience, maybe they like abstract and you're doing realism and they're like, oh, that's terrible. But like this abstract over here is really cool, and like someone else might perceive that as like vomit. It's so weird how subjective art is. But I feel like as creators, we have to get comfortable with the notion that like not everybody's gonna like what you make, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. And I think that's an important lesson to learn, and I'm learning it.
I mean, definitely, no one would like. I don't think anyone. There's no single thing that everyone just agrees on, except for maybe what's on your shirt. Which is like good transition right into that project. Like that's like a cool thing about like seeing that shirt earlier, even before knowing it was a project, and me being like, I would rock that. I want to hit her up for one of those. Like see where she got that, right?
Yes, please.
Yes, I will.
Tell us about Be a Good Human.
Yeah. So I started a foundation called the Be a Good Human Education Foundation, and it's a bunch of different pieces that kind of made this puzzle come together. I, as an art teacher, did murals with my students a lot, and I would always have to fundraise, and I would always have to figure out ways to get the funds to be able to take the kids to do these projects. And in my mind, I was like, how much easier would it be if there was some sort of grant for this type of stuff, which there are little City of Georgetown has a great arts and culture board, and they do projects like this, but they're not for everybody. Not everybody can come and ask for money. So if I can be a little piece of that puzzle to help fund a community project and just kind of help beautify your city or whatever that looks like, if you want to do a mural, if you want to make a garden, stuff like that. And then as an art teacher and an art student myself, I had a really hard time finding scholarships to help me pay for school. Like there's not a lot of scholarships for kids in the arts. So this year with my student Vincent, whose art is upstairs, I was helping him kind of talk through like what are your next steps, because he just graduated, and in the process of like talking about graduation, where do you see yourself going and what do you want to do, and he was like, well, I can't really afford to go to college, so I'm going to work, and and that's fine. Not everybody has to go to college, but I feel like it's unfortunate that a lot of people who are into the arts don't have the ability to get the funds to, even if it's just a workshop, to like perfect your craft or go to an event like Art Basel and like learn more things. Like those types of things I think are super important in like continuing the enrichment of the arts in people's lives, right? And so just kind of all these little puzzle pieces where like I want to give grants, I want to be able to help kids do stuff in the arts if they want to do that, because there's like the stigma of the starving artist. So people think, oh, I can't do that as a career because I'm not going to make it. Yeah, it's not an easy career to get into, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to make it. Like there are definitely things you can do, and especially if you're mentored at a young age, figure out how to get there a little bit easier than someone like me who had to like figure it out along the way, and like lots of like mistakes, which I know everybody has to make them, but if I can help them make a little bit less and like get there a little bit faster, like how cool would that be, Yeah. So I always tell him, when you're famous, you better not forget about me. Yeah. Like when you're making the big bucks, like
credit
remember
to Karla.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is Be a Good Human like localized with like the students that in person, or is it bigger? I mean, I know you're like tapping into Web3 and NFTs and the blockchain. Like, it's bigger than that, right?
It is.
What's kind of the Web3?
So, when I was talking to the Wurstas about like how this NFT space is going and like where I could possibly be in it and what I could do with it, and Matt had mentioned like, hey, what if like in turn you kind of gave back to the kids? And I was like, I love that idea, right? Like why not sell NFTs, and then a portion of it goes to fund scholarships and a portion of it obviously goes to me because who doesn't love a little bit of pay for their art. But that's how the foundation came to be. Because I was like, well, I can't just take money and then say I'm going to give it. Like, I want to put something behind my word. So if I start this foundation, it's legitimate. The state of Texas knows it exists. You know, the IRS know I exist.
You got a
now.
bank account inbound?
Yeah, I'm going to get a bank account on Monday.
I
You know,
know.
like, so all the things are in, like, the process of making this as legitimate as I can make it, so people can trust when they buy my NFTs. Like, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to make sure that a portion of it goes to the foundation. I'm going to make sure that I continue the fundraising efforts and even maybe mentor these kids into turning their art into NFTs as well. So there's like a whole big picture, and I hope that it goes national one day and I'm able to like offer tons of money. But I know right now it's starting local. Baby steps, right? They were saying earlier, like, slow is good. I'm trying to learn that because I'm like, where's all the money? I'm going to give out all the money to all my kids. But yeah, hopefully one day it'll be something amazing. And like the fact that it stands for something good and it's encouraging people to be good humans, I think says a lot.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Ashley,
Yes.
what is on the horizon for you specifically? I think I'm curious, like in the Web3 world, like you are in a great position. You get to see all this happening around you. Like Wursta is awesome, like on the tech side and design side. Like you guys are doing so much in the Web3 space. As you kind of navigate that and see it applying to your own art practice, like what are you kind of thinking? What do you want to do? Like, or what's the move?
I keep telling her, I'm like,
great
make your art into NFTs.
Yeah, and I've been playing with the idea, especially this week. I've had, like, since my art's been hanging on the wall, several people have asked me, like, are these also NFTs? Are you going to make them into NFTs? And I'm like, they're not yet. I've considered the option, but, like, now that the week is kind of over, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make them into NFTs for sure.
Amazing. It's a fantastic first step.
Yeah.
I think.
And I'm so new to the space, it's like I obviously don't have a plan as to what I'm going to do with them afterwards, etc. But I've been kind of talking with some of our developers to see if we can take those ones that I painted on the walls, make them into NFTs, and make them animated. Because, like, some of my work, when you see it, has a lot of, like, ribbons moving and swirling. And I think it'd be a really cool effect for them to have in, like, an NFT form. Just make it a little bit cooler to have.
I love
But
that.
after that, we'll figure it out.
TBD.
Yeah, TBD.
That's awesome.
But she also invented something really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's do that.
Kind of.
The invention idea.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
So,
Palette related.
can't tell you everything because, you know, I'm trying to get a patent
Trade
right
secrets.
now. But,
Fair enough.
you know, insider trading. But no. So, a couple of years ago when I was in college, well, several years ago kind of, but I was in college and I was in a marketing class and they had us make a product out of metal bottle caps that are on, like, beer bottles.
Yeah.
And I was with a group of all boys who were, like, all finance majors, everything, like, knew nothing about anything. And we had to come up with this product. And I was like, how about we do, like, a paint palette? And they didn't understand at all. They were like, why would we do that? That doesn't make sense. And I explained it to them. And so basically we came up with an idea. I came up with an idea to create a paint palette that solves several struggles that I feel like we have with palettes now, which is that they're very wasteful. Like, generally they're made of glass, which, like, you can clean but is dangerous for kids. And wood is hard to clean. Plastic, you just throw that away. Otherwise you use paper plates or whatever the heck you have around the house. And it's like, I kind of wanted to fix that wasteful problem and also make something more, like, flexible for artists. So I created a palette that gave you the ability to have a very customizable paint palette that's, like, super flexible. You can do, like, literally whatever you want.
Magnets or what?
Yeah. So that original idea was magnets because it was with the bottle caps. But that is being played with to see what exactly we're going to do instead of magnets. We could still end up being that way, but it also ideally would be made out of recyclable materials. Cool. So that we're taking, like, all this waste that, like, art creates and just, like, recycling it into something new that people can have for a long time. So
That's awesome. I love it.
I love that too.
And it would also
My
be
art
a little
teacher
more
heart
kid
is like,
friendly.
yes.
Yes. Yeah, and part of like my idea with it was like this is something that like students can use in school. So I wanted to make it very kid friendly, nothing sharp, nothing that anybody can choke on, you know, depending on how old they are.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be a cool opportunity for schools to have them, like just like toss the paints around the freaking art room when somebody needs a different color. It's kind of like a collaborative palette in my eyes.
I like that.
That's very cool. Well, I think I got to jump on a flight back to LA. Keep crushing on a little art project. But before we go, can we get each of you guys give a little shout out, your Twitters, or like however people can like follow you, keep up with your projects or your inventions. Yeah, let's take them home.
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, my @ is @artbyashes, ASHES. So give me a like and a follow. I appreciate you.
Nice.
I like that.
So for the project, I've been on my Twitter. So it's Karla, Karla, Grizz, GRZ NFT. So Karla Grizz NFT. Just look it up, and I'll put all the updates and all the shout outs and all the things to all the wonderful people that have kind of inspired me along the way. So
That's awesome.
And yours, Blake.
yeah, Blake.
Yeah, I'm Blake Jamieson on Twitter.
Athlete portraits.
Athlete portraits on Instagram.
And
Yeah.
thank you, Blake, for sitting here with us and
thank
talking
you.
with us.
Also,
We
fire
so
nails.
appreciate your
Yeah.
I
time.
love your nails.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're
Thick
really
blue
nice.
ones. Don't
I
touch.
usually have mine painted, and I realized
remember that.
I paint them. I
that.
paint them for every conference, and my flight was at 5 a.m. to come to Consensus. I had to leave for the airport at 3. I worked at the studio till 2. Went home, showered, threw stuff in a backpack, and dipped. And then I was like on the plane, like, oh, fuck.
Oh
You
no.
should have Sharpie. You could have asked me.
I
got
would have
some
honestly,
extra
like,
of these.
had I had extra time through when I was here, I would have like popped into a CVS, got a little polish and done them
Yeah.
up. But
That's all right. They
next
look
time,
Next time.
yeah, NYC NFT NYC, I'll definitely have some type of painted nails.
great. Do the whole rainbow.
Yeah,
I hope to have a
Oh.
reunion in Miami with you guys. So
Yeah.
we'll be there.
Yes.
December 2022.
Same place, same time.
Let's
Yeah.
go. I love
Awesome.
it.
Dope. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Blake.
Yeah.